you so much, Bita. And it's so fun seeing the chat. So everyone, please do continue chatting. I see people calling all the way in from Middlebury to Brazil to Japan. So what an amazing global group. So as you come in, don't be shy, write in the chat. Also write where you're coming from or any questions as we go through our opening keynote today. But it is my distinct honor and role to welcome everyone on this Zoom webinar to the 2021 Ashoka U Exchange hosted by George Mason University. And for those who don't know me, my name is Erin Krampitz Boyd, and I see many familiar names on the attendee list. And so for those who I know, hello, it's great to see you. And for others who I'm meeting for the first time, I'm really excited to spend time with you all this week and to learn more about what brings you here. So there's a lot of hopes, a lot of vision, and I know a lot of changemaker energy in this Ashoka U community, and that's what brings us all here today. And a little bit about my story. I just wanted to share that I was the co-founder of Ashoka U with Marina, who you'll be hearing from earlier today. And for those who don't know the story, Marina and I were actually student leaders together back at Stanford University, this back in the early 2000s. And it's our story and history that brings us here today. And it's an important part of the DNA of Ashoka U because we really value the critical role of students as advocates for the future of higher education. And so for those students in the group, we would love to hear from you because we know that working with both student and the community voice are critical to shaping the relevance of our institutions. And so we think about what brings us all to here to the Ashoka U Exchange. It's really to advance change by being connected to the student voice, to the community voice, and then listening, learning, and building together. For those who haven't seen me in a while, I did transition from the Ashoka U team back in 2017 to follow my own changemaker journey. And my passion is truly building community, which is why this community is so important to me. And so I started asking some pretty fundamental questions about what brings people together, especially across difference, in a way that builds trust and creates new patterns of being together that reflects the world that we want to live in. I'm now part of a startup team called Cul-de-sac, and we're building the first ever car-free neighborhood from scratch in the US. So I'm based in Tempe, Arizona. I hope I see some Arizona State University attendees on this call. So we're neighbors with ASU, and we're building a neighborhood. And this is bringing people from diverse backgrounds across age and interest. But what actually connects this group is a commitment to living in the most sustainable housing development in the country. We're decreasing our carbon output by over 50% per person for people living without cars. But one question that I want to kind of connect what I'm working on now to the Ashoka U Exchange is this idea of building more new patterns of being together. So I'm currently right now building new patterns of building more sustainable cities. But there's a broader, more deeper human question about what brings us together as people and as a community. How do we address loneliness? How do we address social connection? How do we inspire people to try something new? Like in my case, living without a car. For everyone else on this line who I know are change makers working in your own realm of making the world a better place, how do we inspire people to join us? And I think this is a question that we're all asking. So how do we bring people together and inspire others to try something new that may have a broader societal benefit? And this is something that I hope we're all going to explore this week. And I think that question takes both self-reflection as well as conversations with others. And so just to start off the exchange, I wanted to start off with just one point of self-reflection. So for me personally, what brings me here today? And it's a story of welcoming and friendship and vision. So when I met Marina back in the day, she welcomed me as a student into the student club. And then she shared stories of social entrepreneurs who inspired her. I met those social entrepreneurs through a lecture series that we put together at our university campus. We invited other students to join that lecture series. And then we actually worked together to create an entire new minor in social innovation. This was an opportunity to be part of something bigger than myself. It was also a story of friendship. working with people who you trust and respect to be able to build that vision. And that was the third part that drew me into Ashoka U, which was vision, specifically George Mason University, which is a great part of our history and also our host today. They were one of our very first Changemaker campuses. And so it's very fitting that they're the host right now. George Mason set forward a vision along with other Changemaker campuses that have now joined this network, that institutions can connect with communities through mutually beneficial partnerships. And through those partnerships, we can make a difference in our world and create those new patterns. So this is what brings me here today, a spirit of welcoming, a spirit of friendship, and a spirit of vision. What brings you here? So for everyone who's joining the exchange, I know that we all have emails coming in. We have, projects that we're working on. If I know anything about Changemakers, we're always the busiest people in the room. So I invite you to actually take a moment to center yourself here at the Ashoka U Exchange and to ask yourself, what brings you here today? Did someone welcome you to a staff meeting or a student club meeting? Is it a story of friendship? Maybe you met someone who inspired you and made you think about maybe you could do something different. Maybe you could actually change your institution for the better. Think about those people and think about those values and how can you welcome others at the Ashoka U Exchange? Because our work doesn't happen in a vacuum, it actually happens together. So even if we all might be in our own homes, dialing in, this Ashoka U Exchange is all about the spirit of welcoming, to getting to know others, because without getting to know others, we don't understand other people's history, where they're coming from, and how to build together. And so in kind of bringing us to this current moment, our collective history is quite unique. There's no doubt that the last 12 months have been unlike any other in human history. And in some way, shape, or form, we've all been touched by COVID-19. That's what brings us all here onto this virtual conference. It's the backdrop of all of our day-to-day lives. But no matter how we're coming together, whether it's in person or online, beyond your own individual values that brought you into the fold into this conference, there's a set of fundamental values from Ashoka U and for this exchange that I would like to share that keeps this community coming together. And that's authenticity, belonging, optimism, inclusion, generosity, courage, and respect. And so as you go and meet your fellow exchange mates, these are all the kind of attitudes and spirit that we hope that you bring with you. We put that into practice by creating a space that has zero tolerance for discrimination, exclusionary practices, and harassment of any form. And we expect all attendees to engage one another respectfully and ethically, and to ensure that we have an environment that's safe and accessible for all. Now, even though we're taking place virtually, we'd still like to acknowledge and share gratitude and provide awareness related to the land that each of us individually currently occupies. So we have seen, in the chat that we have people calling from Chile, we have people in Washington, D.C., we have folks all the way in Kenya. So think about the land that you're currently on. Ashoka U in this conference, located in the Washington, D.C. and Virginia area, is on the traditional territory of the Algonquin-Nacotchtank Nation, which has become part of the Piscotay Nation, a place that has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst nations. And as a US-based organization, we're aware of the many injustices that were forced upon Indigenous communities that called this land home well before we did. And by acknowledging the land and the people and the Nacotchtank Nation, we aim to take one small step towards reconciliation. So for wherever you are joining us from, it's important for all of us to understand our own history and how it intersects with others. And we invite you to reflect upon the land on which you stand and the Indigenous peoples who know it as home. And so this year, a lot of us are calling the Ashoka U Exchange our virtual home for the next week. And this community is made up of over 480 participants from 31 countries. So you each wear many different hats. That may include faculty, staff, administrators, and students, but we also consider you innovators, change makers, mentors, supporters, and friends. And so we'd like to take a moment to acknowledge a few special members of our community that have gone above and beyond this year to help the 2021 exchange come to life. First and foremost, as we've mentioned, George Mason University, our host for the 2021 Ashoka U exchange. They were part of the inaugural cohort of Changemaker campuses, and our team has been working alongside the leaders at George Mason and learning from this team, not just in the past year, but for the past 13 years, they've been part of the Ashoka U network. We'd also like to recognize three very special groups of people who are critical in developing the 2021 exchange. That's the Agenda Council, the Student Council, and the Exchange Advisory Council. The members of these councils were critical co-leaders in the selection of content featured in the agenda, ensuring that student voices and perspectives were featured in a meaningful way throughout the conference, and that we bring a lens of equity and inclusion to the processes and culture of the exchange. Lastly, we'd like to recognize the sponsors and partners of the 2021 exchange, including George Mason University, the Fetzer Institute, and the J.M. Kaplan Fund. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Maui Pepperell, Dean of the School of Business at George Mason University, and Dr. Mark Ginsberg, Provost and Executive Vice President of George Mason University, who are going to share a very special message on behalf of our hosts this year. Over to you.
Thank you. And I have to say, Aaron and Marina, congratulations for this excellent journey that has taken us to this place. It's my absolute pleasure as Dean of the School of Business at George Mason to welcome you to the 2021 Ashoka University Exchange here at George Mason in our virtual capacity, although I'm staring at our physical campus as we speak. We have three campuses just outside of Washington, D.C. in suburban in Virginia, and one in Korea in Songdo. We are the largest public research university in Virginia, certainly also the largest business school, and one also, as Aaron mentioned, of the original 4 Changemaker campuses going back to 2008. This is a large and diverse institution. We've got about 40,000 students now, and 40% of our undergraduates are actually first generation, first in their family to attend college. And about a third of them are Pell Grant recipients. More than 50% identify as non-white. But one of the amazing things about Mason is that our students of whichever group, whichever demographic, graduate at broadly the same rate as the rest of the demographics, which is really, we think, tremendously symbolic of what we do and also tremendously meaningful to those people and their families. Mason has a long history of changemaker education. Our mission is to develop the graduates, the scholarship, and that service-oriented action that will best serve society. Now, our newest commitment to changemaker education here at the School of Business is the Business for a Better World Center, which you'll hear from some members of during the course of this week. And we believe that a better world is everyone's business. So our center, along with our Institute for Sustainable Earth, which is really the science side of building the global future, we recognize business has a critical role to play in addressing the world's most complex challenges. We're guided certainly by the UN 17 Global Sustainable Development Goals. And our Business for a Better World Center brings together leaders from every sector, helps us shape business education into a force for positive change, and prepares tomorrow's leaders to further the common good. So with a vision that so clearly aligns with Ashoka's mission, so eloquently stated over the years by Bill Drayton, that is, everyone is a change maker, we absolutely jumped at the opportunity when we heard about it, the possibility a couple of years back to partner with Ashoka and to host this conference. So it's our great pleasure to do that. And throughout the exchange, you'll see our provost, our president, myself, our faculty, staff, students participating on panels, highlighting Mason's work on climate change, sustainable ecosystems, partnerships for the UN global goals, racial and ethnic justice, health equity, education, entrepreneurship, and peace and justice worldwide. We're really looking forward to participating here. I hope you'll take the time to attend one of these sessions to learn more about Mason and the ways that we might collaborate with you to support changemaker education and social change. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to my colleague and our provost, Professor Mark Ginsberg.
Thanks very much, Dean Pepperell, and it's great to see everybody today. And thank you very much for your remarks. And Aaron, thank you very much for the introduction and the overview for both the exchange and the meeting. I'm really delighted to join with the group and to help welcome you to the Ashoka U Exchange 2021, Rising to the Challenge, Ordinary People Together Making Extraordinary Change. And I'm particularly pleased that we at George Mason are co-hosting the event. Welcome to our magnificent university. For many years, I've known both about Ashoka and I've worked very closely with Ashoka leaders as the organization has collaborated with both higher education institutions, as well as with teachers and educational leaders in the entire P16 spectrum. The theme of the Ashoka U Exchange is to promote a world where every student, not just some students, but every student acquires the skills, confidence, and motivation to create change for the good of all. And this conference this year, as I think you know, is the world's largest gathering of social innovators in higher education. Indeed, that's very impressive and also highly consequential. And I view Mason as the ideal partner to work in collaboration with Ashoka on the Ashoka U Exchange, as well as many other areas. For many years, we have defined our university as a setting where innovation is tradition. What a great what a great setting for innovators to be. And Mason is the newest of the 131 Research One universities in the United States, the highest level of research productivity and engagement. As Dean Pepperell said, with over 40,000 students today, Mason is the largest comprehensive public research university in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And as a majority institution, we are known for our commitment to supporting student success, for the respected research and scholarship led by our outstanding faculty, and for our full and complete engagement in our community. We are a new and different kind of R1, a university with a heart, a university with a soul, and a deep and unwavering commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as innovation. So Mason's a perfect fit for the themes of and vision for this gathering. The Ashoka U Exchange is a gathering place for those who support change making, a robust concept that is energized by an enthusiastic community. And education is about development and learning. Consequently, education is all about change making, and change making is all about social impact and innovation. Ashoka's longtime leader, Bill Drayton, has been quoted by asking the question, can we imagine a world where everyone is really a change maker? Well, the simple answer, in my view, is yes. Yet the more complex and maybe the more honest answer is both maybe and also how can this be possible? So the real question is not if, the matter is what will it take? Well, it will take a commitment. It'll take enthusiasm and lots of energy. It'll take education, and it will take knowledge and skills. And yes, it will take courage. Because it's also been said, if everyone were a change maker, there's no way that a problem could outrun a solution. Another one of Bill Drayton's sayings. Well, we live in a time when problems, frankly, seem to be outrunning solutions. And if not outrunning solutions, outrunning actions. And we cannot afford to allow that to continue. The problems we face here in the United States and around the world are big, they're complex, and they're daunting. And they demand big ideas that demand complex solutions. They require, frankly, a change maker philosophy and a change maker perspective. As the Ashoka U Exchange continues to evolve and itself continues to change, I applaud each of you for joining this gathering today and this week, for continuing your work as change makers, and for helping to change your universities, your communities, our nation, and indeed literally the entire world. And there are people with us today from all over the world to become better places for us all. Again, welcome to the Ashoka U Exchange 2021, and also welcome to George Mason University. It's a pleasure to co-host, and I'm delighted to be with you today. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Dean Pepperell and Provost Ginsberg. What a great way to get started hearing about not only the DNA of student leadership as part of the Ashoka U history, but also really the DNA of innovation and diversity and inclusion that George Mason University brings not only to the Ashoka U network, but also to the exchange this week. So thank you so much. And next, I'd like to share a special video message from Bill Drayton, founder and CEO of Ashoka, who we just heard some quotes from Mark and Dean, from Dean Ginsberg and Dean Pepperell about Provost Ginsberg. That Bill's message will be followed immediately by a talk by Marina Kim, co-founder and executive director of Ashoka U, who's going to share more about her own change-making journey and share a call to action with all of us. So over to Bill Drayton's video.
So thank you very much. I can't tell you how important this gathering is. The world is at a turning point. The Ashoka U community has built a foundation that's going to be even more important than it already has been as we enter and go through these turning point years. It's really a big mistake to miss a turning point, to get it and to be ahead of it and to really contribute to it. That is power and satisfaction and your grandchildren being proud of you and of us. So you've changed higher ed. You've had huge impacts on the rest of society already. And this is part of the tipping of the world. So let me, if I may, just share with you a story. I heard this story just a few weeks ago. A very close friend was at home like the rest of us, and her high school senior son came in and said, "Mom, I have to write an essay for this university about my change-making experience." And very excited. And this is the University of San Diego. And USD is one of the early changemaker campuses. It's played such a valuable role in so many ways, but just think about that impact. My friend's son is now A, excited, B, has to write this essay that he's going to really focus on, and the probability of his wanting to go to USD just went up. This is a big win for everybody. And of course, he's talking about with his family. This is a small example of the gigantic impact you all have had. Now, at this meeting, we've got the core of the movement to change the universities, the people who've been working at it and leading it for the last 12 years. USD being one of the early examples, but we also have people who are joining the movement, and that's a really good sign. Welcome. What I'd like to do here is try to sketch out a bit what this turning point is and hope that that will help everyone as we go through the exchange, thinking about, well, what are the next steps? And you'll see that it fits together so well with what you've already built. You're in a really powerful position to be a key player, even more than you already have been. So, if anyone had any doubt that we live in a world of change, this last year should have finally dispelled that. And it's not just the virus, it's the climate, and it's computers that are going to be smarter than us, et cetera, et cetera. And we can all make a long list. The point is that everything is changing. Each one of these things sets off, wave after wave of change, and they feed one another. That's the new reality. Ashoka U in this community has done so much to help millions of people directly and many, many more millions indirectly have the experience, the first experience of being a change maker, of understanding it, of building those abilities. And the nature of this new world is it's a team of teams architecture, which means that people help one another. And every one of the people, faculty, staff, students, community that you've helped be a change maker, they're helping other people on their teams learn those abilities. This is a very beneficial, everything speeding up and getting stronger. Now, in this world, there is no way that the problems outrun the solutions. In this world, everyone needs everyone else on their team to be really good as a change maker. We're helping one another be better players. That's a structural drive for equality at a really deep level. And ultimately, we're saying everybody can be a contributor, which is what makes you happy in life and healthy. So this is extremely urgent, and this meeting brings together people who've already made a big contribution and who have the power of the universities, but also the power of your revolutionary force in the universities to change this world for the better so that we're not leaving 30 or 40% of the world behind. So research, we need new measures, for example. How do you measure these new abilities? We need teaching, we need consulting, and most of all, we need your leadership. That we have here in this gathering people who can really bring to bear the power of the universities, the thinking, the spreading of ideas. I've given you the example of USD's impact on the son of a close friend. Well, now, if we can help everyone see what's going on, now let's really deal with the underlying forces at work. The feeder high schools, the students, the faculty, the staff, the geographic communities you're in, the alumni, the donors, all the constituencies that universities care about. The economics department cares about the finance world and the business press, et cetera, et cetera. Universities are huge influencers. Each one of those constituencies you are leading. And I hope that over these few days, you'll develop some really smart plans about how to help every single person without exception have the ability to give, to be powerful, to be a change maker. So thank you very, very much.
And so everyone on this call probably knows Marina, and it's really my honor to introduce her as Ashoka U's executive director for the keynote today. But I wanted to share a little story. So at the beginning of Ashoka U, when colleges and universities, this was not almost 12 years ago, and there weren't actually that many courses or programs in social entrepreneurship and social innovation at the time. And Marina actually mapped every single course and program around the world in social entrepreneurship that she could find at the time, partnered with faculty and staff from around the world, and put this directory together in a handbook. And so it's incredible, coming back to Bill's statement, to see how far we've come in just over a decade. To think that this group on the call today has built so many courses and programs that we'd need an entire volume of handbooks to map the activity that we see today. And I know it's the hard work and partnership of everyone in this conference today and in the broader Ashoka U network that motivates and inspires Marina on a daily basis. So I'm excited to introduce Marina and to have her share her reflections from the evolution of the Ashoka U network and her vision for the future. Over to you, Marina.
Thank you so much. Great. So I recently heard a metaphor about how all people are like light wands that over the course of a lifetime pick up a lot of muck and dirt that covers up that light. And this can come in the form of negative comments, negative beliefs, hurtful behavior, or bad habits. But again, underneath that many, many layers of muck, we are all light. And a lot of the work we have to do is to gently rub and undo and unlearn all of these negative beliefs and comments in order to let the natural light shine through. I've experienced the process of claiming a sense of agency and taking risks to make positive change as a courageous act at denying the people who say that isn't possible or who are just naysayers. With every act of moving forward with courage and belief in yourself, a layer of muck gets wiped away to reveal more and more natural light. Every act of expressing the belief in the potential of others also helps wipe the muck off of them. How powerful is that? Institutions are like giant light wands. They were originally designed, especially higher ed institutions, designed to be beacons of learning, inspiration, connection, possibility, and curiosity. And what happens is that over many centuries, many generations, institutions also pick up a lot of muck. And in the case of higher ed, this muck can come in the form of policies that squash new ideas, or a culture of fear that just develops and creates a sense of risk aversion, or a competitive drive and a feeling of negativity in terms of caution around doing new things, or a sense of entrenched hierarchy or belief that some people have better ideas than others. And this isn't to say it's every higher education institution, but there are some elements of these cultural traits that exist everywhere. And when it happens, it can slowly but surely extinguish the light in all of the people in the institution's orbit to conform, to perform, and to fit in. So we hope to use the Ashoka U community as a place to show what's possible when we all focus on shining our own light, when we help rub the muck off of each other, and when we take courageous action for the greater good. And when we realize how much we can do when we just take care of each other. And then this can be amplified many times over when we help our institutions shine as much light as possible and be a place of possibility rather than a place of conformity. So I wanted to just start and spend just a couple minutes focusing on all of you. We're so busy doing things and taking care of other people and trying to achieve goals. And I just wanted to pause for 1 minute and share a few acknowledgements about this Ashoka U community that we love so dearly, and just recognize you and your efforts. The community of Ashoka U is really the secret sauce. Ideas and impact happen because of people. The people in this community are some of the kindest, most mission-oriented, committed, creative, collaborative, and resilient people I've ever met. And it's just inspiring to be around you. Whether you're a student innovator, a faculty member, a staff, a senior leader, or a community partner, just know that we see you, we value you, we applaud you for your important work and contributions. It has been millions of hours that this community has poured into advancing new models for higher education in the name of social innovation, change making, social entrepreneurship. And the work is really hard. Working to change higher education strategy, culture, programming is often like pushing a boulder uphill or swimming upstream. It takes courage, strategic savvy, a lot of energy, and lots of social capital to move the needle within institutions and build things from just an idea. I hope all of you over the next few days gain energy, courage, and confidence from this community of like-minded people who are here to strengthen your resolve to keep going when you get tired. So just reflecting back, I got into all of this 20 years ago as an undergraduate student. From the first moment I saw a social entrepreneur speak and heard the term social innovation, I became completely obsessed. this phrase became a source of identity and meaning for me. And I was just so excited to realize that this could be an area that I studied, and it could be something that I could apply for the rest of my career path post-graduation, and just a way to build skills and knowledge and an ability to create social impact in the world. And it was in the summer of 2002 that I was interning at Ashoka and had a project to map courses and student groups and funding opportunities and professors that were working in social innovation and social entrepreneurship in the United States at the time. And again, nearly 20 years ago, what I found was that it was a new and exciting phase of this work. And what I found was that most of the areas of study were available for students in elite institutions, primarily graduate students, primarily in the business school, and it was very strongly focused on launching ventures and founding things. As an undergraduate student who focused on international relations, this struck me as a bit unfair, a little exclusive, and mostly was just a lost opportunity because I knew so many students just like me that were hungry to get involved, and that this seemed like something we could do better at. So a few years later, in the founding phase of Ashoka U, in the 2008 and 2009 academic year, Aaron Krampitz, Bita Ansari, and I wanted to do something ambitious and bold. We wanted to tackle the root issues of social innovation education. And rather than just focusing on adding a few classes or a few more student clubs, we wanted to make it something that was available campus-wide and for undergraduates as well as graduates, and not just limited to certain schools or disciplines. In fact, we even wanted to elevate this social innovation and change-making idea as a strategic focus for the institution, as a source of competitive advantage, something that senior leaders, trustees, funders, alumni, and parents would understand and value, and not just something that a few faculty and students did. We wanted to show that social innovation and change-making was actually more and more the way of the type of skill set and mindset that every single student needed to graduate with to be successful in the 21st century. And as we shared a lot of these grand visions in the 2008-2009 timeframe, if you remember, it was the Great Recession. It was just taking hold. University budgets were starting to get frozen. Layoffs were unfortunately starting to happen. And we were told many, many times in the early years from experts who definitely knew better than we did that you can't do that. That's not possible. What are you even thinking? Don't even try. Universities are dinosaurs. They'll never change. And one comment that stuck with me and actually is not too far off the mark, well, if you go for it, it'll take at least 2 decades to move the needle for that level of change at the sector level. And luckily, 4 campuses agreed to take a leap of faith with us and become our inaugural Changemaker campuses. George Mason University, our wonderful host for the exchange this year, Cornell University, University of Maryland, and Johns Hopkins University. And just, I think back from the very, very humble beginnings 13 years ago to now this incredible and very robust global community. We now have grown to be a community of over 5,000 faculty, staff, senior administrators, student innovators, and community leaders representing over 600 colleges and universities from all over the world, and over 50 have been recognized as Changemaker campuses. And when I think back to like what we actually did, it was that this community of people, this network, fundamentally changed the conversation in higher ed from social innovation being about a narrow focus on graduating social entrepreneurship founders, primarily from elite institutions, to being an inclusive, accessible pathway where many people from many disciplines can have many abilities throughout a life to contribute to social impact in a variety of industries in a variety of ways. And when I look at the global reach, the growing number of institutional types, which includes community colleges and minority serving institutions, which actually reflect more of the actual population, I just feel such a sense of pride. So just to show a few more concrete examples to show how far we've come since 2008, Arizona State University, another early Changemaker campus, reframed their student hubs to be named Changemaker Central, which is operated by and for students to get them on the journey of being changemakers. This is the hallmark of the student experience for an institution with 75,000 students. The University of Northampton in the UK has undergone a comprehensive overhaul of its strategic plan and centered their campus-wide curriculum around change-making competencies with a focus on how it's a lever for employability. Senior administrators also have their performance measured according to change-making outcomes. CQ University in Australia has KPIs around social innovation in their strategic plan and states an explicit goal of every student graduating as a change maker, regardless of discipline. And just to color in this picture even more, this creative and vibrant Ashoka U community has brought so many different ways of bringing the spirit and ethos of change making to life and made it so visible and so pervasive in the culture. So whether it's people in our network who have the title of Director of Changemaking or Director of Social Innovation, or the growing number of minors, majors, certificates, and master's programs in social innovation, social entrepreneurship, and changemaking. We've seen a proliferation of changemaker hubs, changemaker institutes, and centers for changemaking and social innovation. There are Changemaker 101 new student orientations, Changemaker days, Changemaker weeks, Changemaker collaboratories, and Changemaker collaboratives. There are global social innovation challenges and changemaker challenges. Changemakers in residence, social entrepreneurs in residence, and endowed professors of social entrepreneurship. And last but not least, there are increasing numbers of research symposia around social innovation research and convenings for social entrepreneurs to partner with impact-oriented researchers. I could have mentioned hundreds of additional examples. This isn't even exhaustive. But what I hope that this shows, other than there are many different ways to put change making and social innovation in different catchphrases, is that the level of creativity and innovation in this network, that you are finding so many ways to embed these ideas into the student experience, into every aspect of the student kind of university context. And it's just, I can't wait to see just how innovative and creative it continues to be. And when I think back, that's a long list. I'm tired just thinking of all the work that went into all of those things. So impressive. And just, again, millions of hours of creativity went into that. And yet, when I think back to what I'm actually most proud of, it isn't what has happened, it's how we did it. And so there's this saying that culture eats strategy for lunch. And in the case of change making and social innovation education, an institution could theoretically check every single box in terms of having the right program, the right center, the right initiative, the right tagline, and all the learning pathways. But if they don't also deliver it in a way that is in the spirit of change making, which is focused on active and experiential learning, real world engagement, actually practicing change making and addressing problems and thinking about the systems that these problems were created in and could be addressed in. If it's delivered in a top-down theoretical rote memorization kind of way, then that's not change making. As I heard from a fellow changemaker educator, in theory, someone could learn all about basketball by reading about it in a book, learn all the rules, learn all the best practices. But if you don't dribble the ball or get on a real court with real players, you can't actually be confident, you can't develop the muscle memory, and you can't actually be a true basketball player. The same goes for being a change maker. And what this means is that as an educator, it's not enough to be an expert and transmit static information. A lot of that information is out of date immediately, but also with content like social innovation and change making, part of the process is that the educator needs to grow, and the educator needs to be just as dynamic and experiential as the skill sets and the mindsets they're trying to impart on the students. We've also found when working with quintessential change maker leaders who are senior administrators, that they're also the ones pushing their own comfort zone. They're enabling others in the institution to take risks and try things, and they're creating a culture that is creative and collaborative, and creating a sense of possibility, and when they're implementing new institutional strategies. So when I think of Ashoka U, I really think of a spirit of the people, a spirit of generosity, and this is really embodied in two core elements that I'd love to share. The first of which is that, yes, we're all professionals. There's a lot of very impressive people in this community, but when we show up to convenings, we show up as people who deeply care and who bring their personal selves to do this work, and not just professionals with a list of long resume bullets. I remember back to the first year of Ashoka U that every single person we recruited to join the Ashoka U network had to share their life story and talk about why this mattered to them and why they wanted to drive change on campus and why students should be co-creating this work. And some of my fondest memories were from that very first year. We were at our first few retreats and we spent hours around a fire pit, just sharing stories and just listening to each other. And, I'll tell you, nothing is bonding like talking about dreams, talking about passions, talking about fears, and just getting each other excited about areas of common interest and common desire. And of course, we did also debate the definitions of social innovation and change making, but I think more importantly, we developed those personal relationships. And I think, as you think about what spirit are you bringing to your own teams and your own communities that you're part of, like, I encourage you, just share more of who you are, invite people to share their stories, invite them to bring their full selves and not just their professional selves. And that just can create a beautiful, open and trusting culture that I'm really proud of that we've cultivated with Ashoka U. Secondly, a sense of community over competition. And this one is exciting because higher ed can sometimes be competitive. And what we've tried to create with Ashoka U is a container where if one of us learns something, all of us can learn. And so we want to amplify what's working. We want to support and tell stories of learning and growth and impact. And we want to do that in a way, not to say that some people are better than others, but actually to say, look, we can all learn, we can all grow. This is something that we love to have rising tide lift all boats. Innovation is hard. And so let's help showcase models and best practices of what seems to be working. And let's encourage as many people as possible to benefit from it, to adapt it and replicate it in their own context. And when I think back to all the stories I hear about the Ashoka U Exchange, and just that is the spirit that we bring. And that is what we hope to see much more of, that see what sparks you, see what you're excited by, and then connect with that person and try to learn how they did it. And, we encourage you to also do it yourself. So Ashoka's logo is a tree. And I've been reflecting on this a lot. And when I think of the Ashoka U community, I think it's extremely fitting. Because what do you think about when you think of a tree? It provides shade. It adds nutrients to the soil. It sequesters carbon. It can grow beautiful flowers, fruit, and vegetables. And most importantly, it drops seeds onto the ground that can themselves grow into their own trees. I like to think of higher education institutions as giant trees that can provide beautiful contributions to their communities and stakeholders. And they also naturally plant seeds for the generations to come. When I think of the tree that is Ashoka U, my hope is that our tree has provided shade for many of you when you need rest, sustenance for your souls when you need inspiration or energy, and that the many seeds that we're proliferating in these communities and in these spaces will one day grow into a lush and vibrant forest representing our community. Forests are interconnected and strong when the trees stand together, just like us. And so as we look forward, there is so much to build on. We have such a strong foundation, such a strong culture, so inspiring to just be around all of you. And yet we're moving into a phase that's different. We're maturing. And so, we're actually able to think differently about what is the role of Ashoka U, what is the role of this community, what is the role of each of you. And so we hope that all of you see how powerful you are as individuals, as institutions, and as influencers. We've come so far and our institutions have evolved in many ways, but there's still more we can do to fully represent the everyone a changemaker vision that is our North Star. As we've seen from the past year during the global pandemic and recession, the skills and culture of being a changemaker are only more urgent and only more relevant than ever before. So I wanted to start painting a new picture, and I'll start by sharing some of the early glimmers of new models that we're starting to see. And what I think this is the beginning of a whole new phase of innovation, a whole new set of just ways that we can collaborate together, ways that we can push each other forward, ways that we can build a much more inclusive changemaker ecosystem. So a few of these new things we're starting to see. So as Bill Drayton mentioned, the University of San Diego has a question about changemaking in its application process for all prospective students. Universidad de Monterrey is exploring options for Monterrey, Mexico to become a changemaker city. Singapore Management University is hosting a Changemaker Summit to convene a Singapore-wide ecosystem around changemaker education. Georgian College in Canada has developed a regional changemaker strategy with primary and secondary school networks. Ashoka is developing a changemaker index to measure the percentage of changemakers in a company, a country, or a community, and is looking to explore higher education partnerships. We have started to see ad hoc efforts for higher education to partner with employers to become a high-quality pipeline for changemaker talent. Aacsb's new accreditation criteria include a focus on impact, innovation, and engagement, and changemaking work can represent a core body of evidence to support this. And so just take a few of those examples. Let's blow it out. Let's imagine, like, what could this look like 10 years from now? Like, actually, if we put all of our collective energy into leveraging the assets and the resources and the potential of what we've built on, and think bigger. So imagine if hundreds or thousands of changemaker cities, changemaker regions, or changemaker countries existed, anchored because of campuses that are at the center of these communities and ecosystems. Imagine if all students had to talk about their dreams of making change as part of the admissions process to any college. Imagine if universities around the world convened people to build regional ecosystems around changemaking. Imagine if higher education and K-12 partnerships emerged in every region with a focus on embedding changemaking as a core learning focus at all ages. Imagine if easy and scalable metrics for measuring changemaking in your company or region existed. Imagine if we had clear, systematic, and really strategic pipelines to connect changemaker talent flowing from education to employer. Imagine if changemaking was a key part of being recognized for accreditations moving forward. And so, given how far we've come in just over a decade, I have no doubt that we will blow this out of the water and just see what the full potential is of higher ed, not just as an educator of changemakers, but really an unleasher of new cultures, an unleasher of a sense of possibility, and a convener and a connector to bigger ecosystems, because we're all connected and there's so much that we can do together. So just going back to where I started, which was the light wands, how is yours doing right now? In what ways are you taking steps to shine as brightly as possible? And how many layers of muck do you need to wipe off of yourself to get to your strongest glow? And what are you doing to play a role to help wipe the muck off of other people around you? When I think of all the people who told us the vision of Ashoka U was impossible in the early years, I'm really glad we didn't listen to them. We were too naive and too young to know better, but we were also smart enough to surround ourselves with an overwhelming number of positive voices that drowned out the naysayers and kept us going when things got tough. So I invite this entire Ashoka U community to stand together as a group of people that lifts each other up when things get tough, to offer each other encouraging words when work seems daunting and resources seem too constrained, and ask for each other's life stories and allow each other to be people and not just a perfect professional, and say, I believe in you. This is a long game and we will never be done. There will always be a new challenge, new ideas to bring to life, and a bigger scale to reach for. If we can focus on keeping our own light strong and supporting each other, gently voicing your love and belief in each other, and keep creating and leading our own way into the world we hope to see, we can get to a world where everyone is a change maker. So thank you all for your exceptional, inspiring leadership and contributions to your own campuses, to your communities, to your families, and to Ashoka U. And now we'll end this session with a video featuring a few voices from our community who will share messages about how they brought their own ideas to life. Thank you.
The Ashoka U community is a force of nature. It's positive, vibrant, and inclusive. The impact that I'm most proud of is how I've been able to inspire younger students. The exchange sparked my inner fire, making me want to be the change that I wish to see in the world.
The Ashoka U community is for me guidance and support to keep changing the world. The impact I'm most proud of is that I started as a Changemaker student 9 years ago in an exchange. Now I'm part of the faculty in my university working for change-making education.
The exchange sparked our capability to build and strengthen networks towards social innovation inside and outside our campus. Have a good exchange.
The exchange has really sparked an opportunity for us to bring back what we've learned at the exchange back to our institution as we grow our mission to build change makers.
The exchange sparked my passion for making a positive change in this world. From 2018, my first exchange, when I knew nothing about social innovation, to now when I've dedicated most of my college career to making a change on campus, the Ashoka U community has equipped me with the practical skills and the inspiration to be an effective change maker.
Ashoka U's community is the most passionate, dedicated, and innovative group of educators I've ever met.
As part of the Ashoka U family, and more important, the exchange, the impact that I am most proud of is being able to have had the ability to bring students to the exchange and allow them to network and connect with others to develop lifelong change makers.
The exchange sparked mine and Holder's friendship, which then led to our partnership and creation of the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion thread.
The impact that I'm most proud of is that we've now been able to use this platform to have multiple discussion sessions. We're now officially registered as a business, and now we have an option to run a workshop at the conference.
The Ashoka U's community is where I first presented this idea of training students to provide free legal services to asylum seekers and organized immigrant justice. And now 1 year later, I'm going to be presenting not just on that idea, but on the organization that idea has grown into.
The impact that I'm most proud of is the ability to make necessary and everlasting change in this world. Ashoka U, through its platforms and community, is making this possible.
Ashoka U's community is a container for magic.
All right, what an incredible video and what an inspiring opening session for the Ashoka U Exchange. I know when I think about what I'm most proud of with Ashoka U, it's how I've changed my entire perspective of how I've approached my career, how I approach community building based on what I've learned from this community about inclusiveness and also the courage to think that things can be done differently. And so thank you for inspiring me. Thanks for this amazing opening presentation. And I'll be seeing you again for our keynote later this week with a whole student session that will be later this week, as well as a closing keynote. And in the meantime, there are hundreds of sessions that have been put together by your co-participants, and all of that information is on the app for the Ashoka U 2021 Exchange. And we can't wait to hear about the conversations you have and the impact that we'll make together by the end of this week. Have a great time, everyone, and I'll be seeing you in the sessions.